Hey everybody, welcome back to the Nightmare Collective. I'm Chris, and on today's episode of Nightmare Flashbacks, we're going to be discussing Joe Dante's 1981 classic film, The Howling. Ooh! Let's get into it. Okay, so before we get into the movie, I do want to do a quick shout out to Rob Bottin, if that's how you say his last name. I'm hoping. It's like Bottin or Botin. But anyway, I'm probably butchering his last name. But he did the special effects for this movie, and they are incredible. He also worked with Carpenter on The Thing and The Fog, which those are obviously incredible special effect heavy movies, and they were great. And he also worked on RoboCop, and then a more recent movie, like recent, but you know, that he did that was not in the 80s was Seven. So he's done a wide swath of different types of movies also, but he's great. I just wanted to get that out of the way and shout out him for the great special effects. I mean, that's one of the best parts of this movie. It's almost really only worth watching for that. I mean, there's not really much of a plot going on. I mean, there's a little the thinnest line of a plot throughout this movie that's kind of threading you along. Other than that, this is just for, you get to see boobies and you get to see werewolf transformations. That's what this movie's for. I'm in for it. So, that's kind of what I wanted to get out of the way in the front. And a quick synopsis of what this movie is actually about. It is about Karen White, who is played by the legendary Dee Wallace, who is great in this movie. And she is a reporter. Not a reporter. She is an anchor woman. Sorry. I'm sure she does some reporting as she is doing here, but she is mainly an anchor woman for a news station. And so she's been getting these weird and bizarre calls from a serial killer. And so she has been set up to go to a payphone to receive calls from him, and they're going to transmit and trying to catch him. So she goes to the payphone, he calls her, he's being super creepy, breathing in on the phone, being like, "Hey, I've been watching you." And they show like a little POV of his mouth, and he's licking his lips and stuff. Super weird. Joe Dante knows what he's doing, but it's super weird. And so she gets a location to go to, and she's like, "Hey, I'll be there. I got the outfit on you wanted me to wear because you're a weirdo." But they go, and so she's heading that way. And the transmission is fuzzy here now because of the neon lights. It's the 80s. The technology just didn't work. And her boyfriend is saying as much in there. He's like, "What kind of operation are you running here that you can't even like transmit, you know?" He has no idea what he's talking about. He has no idea on earth what he's talking about, you know, when it comes to this technology. But I don't think they do either. So, you know, what do I know? I don't know either. You know, 80s transmission technology, you know, trying to intercept phone calls. Who knows? Anyway, so we get back. We're following her. She's going to this location. She gets in. It turns out it's a little seedy store. If you know what I mean. Little store where you can take a peek-see at things. And so she goes to the back. The weird guy at the counter looks at her weird. I mean, it's a girl. They probably don't get many females in this type of establishment. And so she goes to the back. She goes to put her little quarter in. Her little movie comes on. You know, so we get our first dose of, you know, bah, bah. And so then creepy guy's behind her. And so he's breathing on her. He's putting his hands on her, you know. He's like, "Hey, I'm glad you came. No, don't turn around. I don't want to see you." She's trying to see him visually so they can catch him, and she can kind of get a description of him in case he gets away or something happens. She can see his face. And so he doesn't want to do that, and all of a sudden you kind of hear like howling and like kind of movement back there and scratching. And so something's going on, and then, you know, they have lost transmission with her. So the cops are on their way, you know, the boyfriend's pissed. He's like, "You need to find her. How did this happen?" And so they eventually talk to a couple people, and they find her in this place, and then they barge in, and the rookie cop just starts basically blowing bullets into this door. I mean, for no reason. He doesn't know what's in there. He just starts shooting it, and the blood is pouring out, and you don't know who it is. I mean, and then they do cut away, and you get Karen on the floor. She's like scrunched up crying, you know, and at this point led to believe that the killer is dead. And then you get to the next scene, and they're like, yeah, we killed him. We shot him. He's gone. You know, she's a wreck. And so she goes to see her doctor, who recommends that she go out to this retreat that's kind of on this like beachy area. It's secluded. And so she goes out there with her boyfriend and, you know, think things over, trying to remember what happens. You know, the doctor told her like, "Hey, it'll get better if you can remember what happened, and then you won't fear what you don't know." Because right now you don't know what happened, and so the fear is based upon the unknown. And so she goes out there, they cut to a little party scene, and they're on the beach, and they are all eating food, and a couple comes up to them, and the girls, like, they're so happy. I mean, they're like exuberant to have them there, which, I mean, we know why. They want to eat them. They just want to eat them. That's why they're there. They want people food. That's what they want. They want to eat the people for food, which inevitably they do eat some of these people for food later on in the movie. But so we cut to that. And one thing I did notice in rewatching this, this is like the 4th or 5th time I've watched this movie, but in rewatching this now, I was like, holy shit, I never realized that in this scene, the guy is like cooking barbecue, and they're telling him like, hey, yeah, man, this guy over here, he gave us all the food for this party. And so they're offering him food. And I was like, holy shit, are they offering them people? Because clearly they eat people. I don't know what other meat it would be. It could be game. I'm just like, it could be. I'm not saying this is 100% true, but I'm assuming that maybe they were offering them people. Because they're like, hey, we killed this person. Here's some leftover. You want some thigh? You know, you want some arm? I got a little toe if you want that as well. You know, eat up. But I don't know if that was actually the case. It could have just been deer, for all I know. But it's far more exciting to think that it was people. That's far more interesting for me, at least. You know, werewolves feeding people, and then eating them later. You know, cyclical cycle they've got going on here. So anyway, like I said, they're very exuberant to have them there. They're like, come on, you know, she pulls off Karen, and they're all talking, and, you know, they're the best of friends now. So they're excited to be there. They cut to them in the bed, and, you know, he's kind of like, no, I don't want to do anything. And she's like, no, it's these, you know, whatever. So sorry, it's the reverse then. Later on that happens, but he's kind of wanting, and she's like, I'm not in the mood. You know, I was just traumatized by a serial killer. Dude's kind of a dick, though. Like, hey, we came out here to get away from that, and the first thing you want to do is, you know what? Typical guy. You know, typical guy. Whatever. So she's having nightmares about this stuff, and she has these visions kind of, you know, spread out every time you kind of get a glimpse of her sleeping. She has these visions of, like, different things, and so the next day we cut to the boyfriend out there with one of the other local guys, and they're kind of shooting stuff, and they're trying to shoot some game to eat. And so you see all of that happening, and then he gets attacked while in the forest. And so he's running, he gets like his arm slashed, and so he's running back to the house. He makes it. She, you know, Karen's there. She picks him up, drags him back in, and then guess what? It's werewolf time. It's like Power Rangers. It's morphin' time, except for it's claw time. But anyway, so he gets called out into the wilderness, of course, by Fang Chick. I don't remember. Martha? Maybe Martha? Martha? I'm trying to remember. Sorry, I don't know every character in this movie. They're unimportant. There was just werewolves. I was just paying attention to werewolves, not characters' names. But anyway, I believe her name's Martha. I believe her name is. It started with an M. Started with an M. Let me know down below what her name is. But anyway, she's scantily dressed, you know, got her revealing all the way down. And so she calls him out there. He's being called, you can tell. And so they do the nasty on the beach, you know, and they got their like bangs all out. And so now you know that he has become a werewolf. And I'm like, is it really that easy? You just get sliced once? You know, obviously this is, you know, it's not that elaborate, but literally, he just literally got grazed on the arm. So I'm like, man, with this werewolf logic, I can just get like a prick, you know, from a finger. Somebody can just like poke. So why don't they do that? They just want to like, get the population instead of doing all the stuff they're doing. They could literally just go like slash people like on the subway. Just go down to New York and like slash. Everybody be werewolves at that point. I guess maybe they have to be in that form. So I guess maybe that would see. But it's New York. So you could get away with it. People think you're wearing a costume or something. Do it on Halloween. That's the perfect time to do it. Just all go out as werewolves on Halloween and scratch a bunch of people. And then look, now you got an army of lichens. It's a good plan. If I was a werewolf, that's my plan. Don't steal it. If you become a werewolf, don't steal my plan. You can involve me in your plan. I will be a plan maker for you, you know. Like, say yes to the werewolf plan on Halloween. You know, be some trick-or-treat stuff. But anyway, let's continue. I'm ranting on about my werewolf master plan, but let's get back into the movie. They do the deed on there, and you kind of see them like transform, which I love the look. What, you know, we've talked about like the special effects in this, but I kind of want, this is the first time we've seen the werewolves a little bit. You know, you kind of saw a little bit of them earlier on, but this is the first time that you kind of see them like slowly transforming into this. And it's very like carnal, and it's very like primal, but I love the look of like the eyes and the fangs. It's my favorite part. I don't know that I'm a huge fan overall of like how the werewolves actually look. I mean, I think there are like better werewolves done later on, but I do like that they're like tall, they're kind of hunched over, their ears kind of come out, which is cool. Their ears don't like transform. But I do like the fangs. They're super cool. Like they got their two outer ones and the two bottom outer ones kind of come out, and they've got these little baby teeth up there. But I love it, man, because the mouth's open wide, because they're still in human form, and I love that. That obviously it saved budget. They didn't have to transform everybody into werewolves at that time. So they got like, the yellow eyes, and then the fangs come out. Super cool. Super well done. I like that. And so, like I said, it saved money. They didn't have to transform every person every time. But I think it's a cool look overall. It's why vampires are kind of easy, because you can just do fangs, change the eye color a little bit, and you've got a monster movie. So now we know that he is a werewolf. So he comes back home, and now she's like, hey, what's happening? Something's going on. She has a dream, and, she's like, something's going on. Something's going on. I don't know what it is. There's something going on here. So then throughout the middle of the movie, it kind of meanders, and you're kind of getting hints that, something else is going on. And so we're going to skip past kind of the middle of the movie, and we're going to kind of just flash forward to the end of the movie, where like the plot picks back up, because basically what happens there is they just kind of go about a couple days and really not much happens. So that's why I want to skip forward to the good stuff at the end. And so you have the two other people there from the beginning with them as well. And so you've got the one guy who was working with the transmitter, and then you've got his girlfriend that are there as well. And so they've been kind of reading up on some stuff, because she has recorded the howling at one point. She sent it to him and called him, so he's been looking at like werewolf stuff, and so he's got some kind of inkling that something is going on, in this place. He's just not 100% sure. And so they're there, and so she is kind of going out and she is investigating throughout the thing. And then all of a sudden she gets to a house, and she's creeping inside because she wants to look around to see what she can find. And lo and behold, guess what's in there? She found pictures that were the same as the one she found in Eddie's place before, and they matched that. And then she realizes like, oh, this is the retreat. This is where it was, where she went. This is where she's at. And so he is there, and he comes out, and he attacks her, and then she chops off his arm. She's like, shung, you don't need that anymore. And that's another cool effect, where like the arm is a like werewolf arm, and it's like still throbbing and shit coming out, and all of a sudden you see it kind of turn into a normal hand. So now she's like, okay, this is not just like a normal creature. This is a werewolf. This is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people transforming into murderous beasts and killing people. So she gets away, for the time being, but she is not long for this world, and does again get attacked by him when she gets into this office. It's the docks, kind of office area. She calls Chris. I believe his name is Chris. I can remember that. one. So she calls him, and she's like, hey man, something's crazy's going on. There's this going on. There's werewolves. There's something. And he's like, hey, like look up these files while you're in there. There's a filing cabinet. So she goes over there, and she's like looking at all the names, and they're like all the same, and they all have the same last name. And she finds that, and then she hears something from the other room, and then bam, dude walks in and just wrecks her. I mean, he is basically transforming, and this is where we get that long, drawn-out shot of him transforming. Realistically, they probably should transform faster, because, they might die later on. It does come back to bite them in the ass, but they should be able to transform faster, which, I mean, I know they're doing it for effect here. I know they're doing it to kind of show off the transformation, and it is really good. It's really well done. And so they show him transforming, and like I said, they're showing his chest coming out, and like his face is shaking, the eyes are glowing. It's super cool. That is the best shot in the movie. Like, so if you're gonna watch this movie, even if you don't enjoy it, that is worth the price of admission into this movie, because that scene is awesome. It's the best scene in the movie as far as like the transformation go, the attacks, the kill. It's one of the few really kills that's brutal that you get to see. There's not a lot in this movie, like I said. Plot is razor thin, but this is where we do get like a big fight scene, and it's awesome. It's my favorite part of the movie. So he transforms, you see it, and so she's dead. she gets mauled. I mean, she is gone. And so Chris, obviously noticing something's wrong, is like calling the cops to get over there. And of course he gets werewolf cop, which we find out later, which doesn't help things. And then we cut back to Karen. And so now Karen has had a dream about her boyfriend, and he comes in and he's got claw marks on his back. And so she's like, you've been sleeping with that woman. You have been. I know it because you didn't have those claw marks the other day. And he's like, no, I had them. And she's like, no, you're lying. Clearly, you're a man. You're lying. You're lying to me. You slept with that crazy wolf lady. We flash forward now. And so she is brought out to basically the werewolves, because now she kind of knows something is going on, and she runs away, and she eventually gets to them, and they've like cornered her in this like barn area. Yes, I know if you watch the movie, I'm kind of skipping forward through things because, like I said, a lot of it's irrelevant. I'm just getting to the parts that I think are enjoyable. So we get to the end, and she is cornered in the barn, and they're basically like, look, this is it. You're one of us now, and your boyfriend's one of us too. And so they're trying to get her to join them, and then this is where we cut to the old guy who we had earlier in the movie, who was trying to burn himself to death, and so he's basically tired of the way they've been doing things. And so basically you find out that what they've been doing is the doctor has been getting people to come to this retreat under the guise of like healing them and doing stuff like that, and then they transform them or they eat them. That's basically what they do, because they can't like mesh into society so well. So that's basically what they've been doing. And so we get that moment, and they're all in the barn, and they're all collected. And then Martha, yes, I'm going to call her Martha. It's going to be like Batman vs. Superman. Martha's going to save the day. But Martha says, like, I'm tired of this crap. She gets her fangs out. She does all of that. And while we're doing this now, we've got Chris to the rescue. He's got a gun. He barges in where his girlfriend was. He shoots Eddie. Well, Eddie shows up there, and he's like, bro, you can't shoot me. And they do cut earlier in the movie to him with a book called How on his desk. And I was like, is this how he learned to bring silver bullets? He read this manual on like how to kill werewolves for dummies. We had that. So anyway, he brought silver bullets with him. And so Eddie's like, you can't hurt me. Shoot me. And he does shoot him, and it kills him. He's not so smart, that Eddie. Anyway, so now he is hightailing it there, and they go into the woods, and then, she gets out, and they come out. The doctor comes out, and he's trying to get away, and then he gets shot, and he's happy about it because he's like, I'm done with this. I no longer want to do this. He dies, and Karen escapes, and they lock the thing because he keeps shooting, them. Shooting bullets at them, and they don't want to die. So they lock him in there, they set the bitch on fire, and they burn them all. So they think. But some of them do escape, and I think there's a few other ones because they're howling. And so I don't know if they really escape from. They don't show that. All they show is, they get in a car, and they're running away, and then you see them come out. So I'm assuming that, a few of them get out, and some of them burned alive. Few get out, and they're chasing them, and this is where you cut to the cop, and he's there. He's got a gun. He's shooting at him, and you see his fangs. And now you're like, okay, everybody's in on this. Everybody's been on this plot, and I haven't been on this plot, but they're all in on it. So this whole like retreat area and the cops and everybody, they're all in it. So he shoots at him. Chris gets out, shoots him with the silver bullets twice. They get out of the car. Of course, the car explodes because all cars explode when you shoot them. And so they get in the cop car. They're starting to drive away. Werewolf attack. It comes through, and she gets like slashed, basically bit on the shoulder. She gets a shit beat out of her in the shoulder. So you're like, okay, well now she's a werewolf. Now she's done. Anyway, and then they're kind of all clawing. Firearm discharges and shoots that guy. This is the only convenience. So we're going to get into something that I don't like right here. A little nitpicky, but of course, conveniently, it is her boyfriend. And they don't ever reference back to him. So I'm assuming he's dead, but at least they have him. So they never mention if he is alive or dead, but I'm assuming he's dead because they don't show him again. But anyway, they get away, and you're like, okay, great. We survived, but she's going to be a werewolf. And this is where things get a little interesting because they know they have to warn people. And they say that they're like, hey, we've got to warn people that there are creatures out here and they're going to murder them. She goes on live television, and they have this plan set up, and she's kind of reading off script now. She has this little like monologue thing, and then she transforms into a werewolf. And her buddy Chris over there shoots her right on camera. And of course, they cut away, but now they've let everybody know. And if they believe them, they believe them. If they don't, they don't. So then they cut to a bar where people are watching that, and they're like, man, special effects have gotten crazy these days. And one guy's like, nah, it's real. And then they pan over slowly, slowly, slowly till you get to bum, 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 Martha. She is still alive, and now she is one with the people. So we really don't know how many people survived that fire. I'm sure some of them died, but we don't get like an actual number on how many of the werewolves actually survived this. And so we don't know, is it just her? Is she the only one that made it out, or there were a few other ones? Because there was a few other ones on the car that like get thrown off, but they may have survived. So I'm sure there's a small portion of them that did survive, and she wanted to go out and mingle with the people anyway and just like kill them and take over. So she's there, they cut to her, and they're like, hey, you want a steak, pretty lady? And she's like, or they ask like, how do you like it? And she's like, rare. Of course she does. Of course she likes a rare steak. Now I will agree with her. I like a good rare steak. You know, good blue steak, I'm into that. I'm good into a rare steak, you know. Medium rare is fine. Most places where I live will do a medium rare, but you know, I like a good rare steak every once in a while. Every once in a while, not every time, you know. But overall, that's kind of what I have to say about this movie. I really like this movie, and the special effects are great, the music's great, the directing's great. Like I said, there's not much of a plot here, but overall, I do think it's a fun movie. So that's all I got today, guys. If you like this movie, let me know down below. What are your thoughts on The Howling? What's another movie you think I should cover in this series? We do a lot of like older movies, Nightmare Flashbacks, so I got a lot coming. The Fog will probably be next, and then we'll move on from there. But that's all I got today, so if you guys like what I do, consider becoming part of the collective. Check out some of my more recent reviews. I recently did The Monsters from Rob Zombie, you know, ugh. And I did Pearl and Barbarian, and we've got Smile coming out soon, and then we also have a couple other ones. Halloween's coming out in a little bit, so a lot to look forward to on the channel. So that's all I got. And as always, don't forget, some doors should never be opened.